Everyone, thank you very much for being here. This is going to be very casual. I've been talking to many of the people already. Our dear friend, David Barron, had an unfortunate accident. He had a cat bite in his hand that left an infection that required surgery. I just spoke to him an hour ago. He's doing very well. So he's already on the mend, and we wish him the best. So, in presuppositions, that is the topic here. And what came to my mind, I'm sorry, let me organize my notes. The great thing about presuppositions, it's a way to look at things you can influence by them. Milton Erickson was great with them, using the simple one. I don't really care whether you go into trance slowly or quickly. Well, the presupposition, if you accept that, is you're going to go into trance either way. But for me, presuppositions, it's a great way to use this in life. One of the classics in NLP is the cat sat on the mat. Well, in order for that statement to be true, you have to presuppose one, there is a cat, two, there's a mat, and three, that all of these exist in a certain place. Whether it's a room or even if they're just floating out there, there is the existence. But it can go much further than that because, as I say, the cat sat on the mat, all of you have an image. Now, the cat could be black or calico, uh, the mat, doormat, whatever kind. There's many variations, and I'm sure all of you have something different. And my favorite, one of my early mentors, Michael Breen, he posed this question. He says, well, what if I'm a hippie? I've just toked up a little bit, and we're in London, across from the recording studio, uh, whichever famous one it might be. And what if the cat isn't the animal, the cat? What if I'm a little stoned and I just said the cat sat on the mat and I'm referring to Jimi Hendrix as the cat and he's sitting on this Persian rug? So you have to unpack the presuppositions. I'll give you a personal example and then I will ask for a response from this wonderful audience. Uh, Recently, my wife had a birthday party and she wanted to make it simple for everyone. And she decided that on her birthday, she would take people out. Well, the place that she recommended, uh, one of her brothers called and said, oh, well, the sister-in-law said, if we're going there, she's not going to go. So this is rather cruel, and I hope my in-laws are not watching this. But what does that really say? Well, the presupposition is she doesn't actually like my wife. She's going for the free meal. And it was very unfortunate when I kind of pointed that out to my wife. She looked and said, holy shit, that's what she really means. By the way, I apologize for the cursing, but as a member of the Society of NLP, it is mandatory that I say a four-letter word at least 10 times per hour. So anyway, uh, I know Alex, I can see you right there on the screen. I'm sure you have some thoughts. Would you like to chime in for the moment?
Yes, I was just thinking, and it's a somber day today. I'm afraid the last couple of days, I'd learned that one of my first, one of my first subjects and one of my best, recently passed. So I'm doing this more or less to honor her memory, as they say, may her memory be as a blessing. But she was one of the first that I used presuppositions to induce a trance with her, as it were. So this was one of those where I'd ask the question, would you like to go into a trance now or when it's convenient for you? Something along those lines. I think the phrase is a double bind as well. It allows you the choice between two outcomes, both of which involve going into trance, as you're probably aware if you've used that yourself. But if you've been the recipient of it yourself and you've never noticed that it was done like that, and this was what my friend Wanda was all about. She would come in and she'd be expecting a spiral or a watch swung in front of her face. But these are just traditional, and I'd have to explain to her that they were just a means of fixing attention on a particular point, because where attention goes, energy flows. And so it goes. You can thank Igor Ledakowski for that rather than David Barron, because I learned that from Igor. Which you probably may not be familiar with him. He's the co-founder of the Hypnosis Training Academy, where I cut an awful lot of my teeth and spent an awful lot, too much of my money. But Wanda was definitely the best of my subjects, and she would find herself slipping into trance at some of the slightest pressure, the slightest verbal pressure, as it were. But the presuppositions were always fun. It'd be like telling her, you can choose to look at this from such and such a point of view, and that point of view would be in a trance, or you could look at it from another point of view, and that point of view would be an even deeper trance. And it'd always be an invitation for her to look through the eyes of somebody who is in a trance, as it were, and that she'd go. She just slipped so quickly and easily into trance. It was amazing. And I feel like I'm sitting shiva for her right now. I'm not even Jewish, but I think she would appreciate that. So thanks for letting me talk about Wanda, because she was my first and one of my best. And I'll always be missing her. But yeah, presuppositions was the quickest and the gentlest way of bringing her into trance. And I would just do it like snapping my fingers. And it was amazing. We had some amazing years together, and I'm going to miss those years. Thank you.
Alex, thank you so much for sharing that. I didn't plan to do this, but since it came up, I'd like to share something with all of you. Um, and the caveat here is I'm in the process of certification, so I'm not teaching this in any way, shape, or form. But there is a technique called the havening technique. Paul McKenna has probably made it more famous than anyone.
Yep.
And just right now, since we're in the early start, we can start this. So what havening does is it's going to create delta brainwaves, and those are the
Come on.
healing
No, never.
brainwaves. So you can create those by doing this. And by the way, how this all came about was um, Ron Rudin, the creator of this. He was very intrigued when Paul McKenna showed him Roger Callahan's. It was TFT, but tapping. Gary Craig made it more mainstream, but Ron Rudin couldn't believe how well it worked, and he researched it, and his conclusion was it creates the delta brainwaves. Those are healing. Gamma brainwaves are where PTSD comes in. And then Ron was lucky enough to, be friends with Paul McKenna, and Paul McKenna has done wonders with this. But just for now, there's three basic ways that havening is done. It's this. So I invite all of you, if you just want to stroke your face, or if you don't like that, you can stroke the arms. This is going to create delta brainwaves. There's a third way, and this is less effective, but if you rub your hands together, these are soothing things. These are done naturally through any type of origin. It's usually how a mother will comfort a child. So if you all just take a deep breath and just do whatever's useful for you in the way of creating these, and you don't even have to say it, just think it. I open my mind to learning. I open my heart to friendship. I choose to feel safe, peaceful, and calm. And just notice how good you start to feel. And right there, there's a presupposition in that. Notice how good you start to feel. You're going to notice a change. You're going to feel better. So I hope you all are. And let me open the door to the communication with all of us. Graham, I haven't seen anything, any look from you, but I know you always have something very exciting to add.
It's actually quite interesting because I think it's just probably the way my mind works. And like Alex, I do have a fair bit of stuff from old Igor, as well as Steve G. Jones. They do have some interesting things, but I don't think I've ever actually consciously thought of the technique of if I'm actually putting suppositions in there and what I'm doing, or whether I'm just going with the flow with it and reacting to the clients. But it's a certainly interesting thing to have a look at, to reflect upon with what I do when I'm doing induction, and certainly have a look through with my notes. But then I also sometimes do get confused with the idea of preconceived notions. Like Alice was saying about how they expect, you to be swinging a watch or saying things like "look into my eyes" and all that sort of thing, or like wiggling the fingers with little bolts of electricity, so beloved in cartoons.
You're completely right, and it is useful. And a lot of times we use presuppositions without even recognizing how much we are using them. So thank you for that thought. I had a wonderful conversation with Hamer, and since you've just come off mute, you must have been reading my mind. Hamer,
Well,
do you have any thoughts?
I've got some, sure. Presuppositions are so cool. And my favorite presuppositions are presuppositions of awareness, like imagine, notice, picture, recognize, realize, and all words like that, which you can issue as an embedded command. But if you can't imagine how good you're going to feel when I say that, you have to try it on in order to be able to decide whether you're going to accept or reject it. Or just as you said at the end there, Joe, and just notice how good you feel at the end of it. As soon as you use these presuppositions of awareness, they actually create the state. And if you add something like an adjective or an adverb presupposition on there as well, it makes the suggestion much more difficult to resist. And as you find yourself using these language patterns more and more, you'll rapidly discover just how much influence and how you can wield an incredible amount of influence in front of everyone that you meet.
That's a hell of a presupposition right there.
And everything I said makes perfect sense, didn't it?
It did, and the thing is, I'll go to one of the guys that I have the utmost respect for, Mark Cunningham. That what you just said, no one's going to resist pleasure. People don't resist good feelings. So there you go. Thank you so much for that. I want to give a note there. I've called on these people because they're personal friends. The people I don't know well personally, please feel free to chime in. I just don't want anyone to think I'm picking on them. So, we have Tyrone, Sharon, Mark, Fred. If you have any thoughts on this, please, or I will be forced to call on people. But going back to what Graham said, presuppositions and double binds, I believe they go hand in hand. Uh, I use double binds a lot. I have two nephews. The little buggers are like 8 years old. And if you give them a choice, they can always go, Uncle Joey, they would say fuck you, but they can say no. So, if we're getting ready to go out, I don't say, do you want to get dressed? It's like, hey, since we're going out, do you want to wear the red shirt or the blue shirt? That would be another example. Uh, the it's a double bind. It's the illusion of choice, but the presupposition is you're getting dressed and we're going out. Um, does anyone have anything they'd like to? Because I mean, listening to me ramble, I I do love the sound of my voice, but I want to make sure everyone here gets the
You're
most
not
value.
alone. You're definitely not alone. I love the sound of my own voice too. Uh, I was just thinking the biggest use of presuppositions is in advertising. It's one of the most prevalent and the most pernicious things that you can see. An advert that starts off with some sultry voice saying, everybody loves a good holiday, but, and then it'll give you some choice between some average or rubbish package holiday or our amazing product here where our agents will blah, 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 and they'll big up the professionalism and we'll guarantee you a great time. And well, they've dropped the word guarantee because nowadays they just drops out of the field of commerce so easily. You could be stranded without even a chance of seeing a plane coming home. But yes, everybody loves a you fill in the blanks, or everybody deserves a, and then you can fill in the blank a pint after work or a decent cup of tea or something like that. And it's everybody loves a the presupposition being that you're standing there at the forefront of a whole bandwagon of people which don't exist until you've actually commented. Imagine these people standing behind me, all of them absolute big hearted fans of XYZ brochure holidays or something like that. But yeah, advertisements is the biggest use of all sorts of presuppositions, including the negative one, which is you don't want to buy a product that's more expensive than it's worth, and then they'll show you something with dark, stormy images and a whole bunch of people shivering on the beach and stormy weather and all that sort of stuff, and then snap the fingers, bright sunshine, same family standing there, and it's absolutely gorgeous weather, and then you get the logo of the company they're shilling. So it's again, it's huge. And it's probably the only thing that the advertising executives ever noticed, probably in between doing lines. But so it's the only time that they learned anything. But yes, presuppositions are huge. They're big business. It's amazing. It's not just for your little hypnosis studio. If you got into advertising, you'd be using it all the time, I'm sure. Probably without meaning to know what it is that you're doing, but you'll be doing it anyway.
Edward Bernays. I mean, when I look at Bernays, his most genius thing, and I'm thankful for him, but pork belly. That was a horrible cut of meat that no one really wanted until Bernays came along, and in all the periodicals, they had the little cartoon of the rich families having bacon and eggs for breakfast. And then all of us rubes saw it and, thought, hey, if that's how the rich eat, we're going to eat like that too. So bacon is popular because of that. I believe it was also Lucky Strike cigarettes. Their campaign, which Bernays also did, was having women wearing red dresses, and that, Alex, I love you. Investing in pork bellies. Thank you so much. But the Lucky Strikes thing, women wearing red dresses. Well, that red circle on that pack of cigarettes went with the dress and Lucky Strike. I mean, even though smoking has been unpopular for the last 3 or 4 decades, especially, uh, who doesn't know, provided you're of the certain age, LSMFT? Lucky Strikes means fine tobacco. And it works. And all of these things. So uh, today's little discussion, it's not so much to, teach you how to use it in hypnosis. More importantly than that, it's to teach you to spot them in everyday life. And be able to recognize when you are being manipulated. I said I wouldn't call on anyone, but I take that back. I've had a lot of conversations with a good. Oh, I'll digress for a second. The Freud family is incredibly scary. That is correct. Um, I'm sorry, this is a friend of ours. You show up. I just, from your what is there, I don't know your first name, but you're 100% accurate. Dwayne, I have a mind like a steel trap. Nothing gets down, gets in, nothing gets out. Uh, Hamer, sick man, fraud. That's true. Uh, that could be a whole other discussion, so I'll leave it at that. Uh, but there's a lot of manipulation, and if you study Freud, first part of his career, he seemed authentic, genuine, and then in the second half, I do believe something switched. And if you research it at all, there's a lot of abuse in many ways that I won't go into now. But I am curious to hear from my good friend, Eileen Carey. If you'd come off mute, do you have any thoughts on this?
Sure. So a couple of asides. Lobster originally was fed to prisoners and they repackaged it as a luxury food. But it used to be like the food that they could only like feed to prisoners. And I actually work in a building where they used to make Lucky Strike cigarettes. So there you go.
Wow. Thank you. And well, thank God that Lobster was opened up because it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. So as you're talking about presuppositions, in addition to using them as a tool to guide people in a direction you want to take them, I'm also thinking in terms of like how we limit and trap ourselves with presuppositions that we place upon other people, other things, our own lives, and how thinking beyond sort of some of those limiting beliefs and presuppositions is how you free yourself from certain stuck behavior.
Eileen, thank you so much for bringing that up. You can stay off mute and continue to interject. But if all of you would like to learn a fun little thing, this video may not get released because I'm quoting way too many people and whatever. But the havening technique, I found it to be very useful with, and I learned this from Doug O'Brien, and he actually learned it from Tony Robbins. The word because is so powerful, and you don't really need logic if you use the word because. In Robert's book, Something of Influence, he talks about that. And there were tests done that if you want to cut in front of someone in a line at the grocery store, you can ask, can I go ahead of you? And basically, no one's going to let you do it. But if you say, can I cut ahead of you because my car is running? That works. So for any of you, if you have a limiting belief, you don't have to say it. But this is from other notes that basically it can be anything that I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be loved. We'll change that to I am good enough, or I do deserve to be loved, or whatever that belief may be for you, and then put the word because. And then, so let's just say it's, do you have an arbitrary one, anyone? And we'll kind of workshop this. Anyone who wants to come off mute, just Alex, thank you.
Okay. I know somebody who wanted to have me help them to lose weight. So I do deserve to be fit because that's the choice I made, is to presuppose that they are fit today and will be fitter tomorrow, rather than give them a goal of losing weight which they may not obtain.
Okay.
They're trying to
So
progressives. I deserve to be fit because
come up
I
with the
love.
answer.
Yeah.
We'll workshop this. So what answer did they come up with, or what would you give them in a hypothetical?
Um, they came up with the because, which was I love myself.
Perfect. So when you're doing this belief, if you haven and create those delta brain waves, it will actually imprint it more. So what it would start with is you change the message of the belief. I deserve to be fit because I love myself. And then you can drop everything. Yeah, I would do this for about a minute, drop everything and give them the powerful message and let them, continue. I love myself. And that does create the belief change. All of this, presuppositions, double binds, belief changes, these are the most beautiful powers of language. And they can shape and transform your beliefs. Now, keep in mind, all of this can be done in a less than better way. I've witnessed it, but I choose not to focus on that because I want to be happy. There you go. There's a precept there. Uh, so I'll leave that segment there. Does anyone else have any comments, questions, remarks? I see a lot of people. So here, I will call one on one. Alex, not Alex, but the other Alex I see came off mute. That's first. So let's go with you.
Hey, what's up? It's my first time joining one of these. Sorry, I kind of, I was, what was the question?
The question is if anyone has any comments, questions, even rude remarks, I'll take anything. I'm really glad to have you here. If I can save you at the end, and then unless you have something, a burning desire, whatever you'd like, my friend.
Yeah, no, no, it's a cool topic. I noticed that, sometimes like I'll be with like around certain people that are pretty influential and they'll just naturally be using these presuppositions all the time. But, one that comes to mind is like, I mean, and this, I guess, in sales, this is called like an option close, but it's like, you want to do this or this, like, but that's like presupposing that you're going to do one of the two, or
Yes, and I don't like lingo. One of my mentors was anti-lingo, and I agree with him. But technically, that is a double bind. That is the illusion of choice.
right, right. And so I was just trying to think of some more, um, yeah, maybe we could come back. I mean, even saying something like this is something I noticed one of my friends saying the other day is uh, like you want to roll to Costco or what? Like, or even saying or what, like gets you to just be, it's kind of like it builds up this momentum where you're kind of like, I guess, like, I don't know. That's just how I notice myself. Or even if you say like, or no, um, the person is like, I don't know how, I don't know why it works. And I'd be curious what your thoughts are, what you guys think about that. But, yeah, it does presuppose your agreement. Yeah.
It does create a bind. I was about to say I'm not necessarily proud of this, but if I wasn't proud of it, why would I talk about it so much? So, uh, the seduction world is kind of where I first started trying NLP, and you can use a simple one. Someone you first started dating, you just look and go, "Hey, I think the only way we can really build something stronger is to get to know each other, and that can only come with time." So, what do you say? Would you like to go away this weekend, or should we wait till next week? The presupposition is you're going to go away with me and spend the weekend with me. And, everyone's an
Hmm.
adult here. So, uh, obviously, the big presupposition is you're going to sleep with me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, in modern day, like we a lot of I just call it game, but a lot of my friends that have a lot of game, I notice they'll use these presuppositions all the time. But like I said, they'll use them with me as well. They just use them in their day-to-day life all the time, and they're always
Totally integrated.
they almost it almost I think for them uh they do it without even realizing it because they're so assuming they're assuming so much compliance from everybody around them.
Very
Guys that are
true.
good at sales and
And the thing with presuppositions is once you know them, once you know how to use them, you basically can't stop. And once you know how to hear them, you can't unhear them. My wife is the example. I pointed it out to her because I mean, I heard what the real message was. And unfortunately, she's now looking and it's causing a rift in the family. So it is a double-edged sword. But Alex, thank you so much. I noticed Dwayne had come off mute. Dwayne, if
can
you'd
I
like
can
to,
I add one more thing
yes, sir.
real quick? This is something that a friend of mine had told me. Now, I don't know if this is a presupposition or not. It could be an inversion or something, but he told me that when he's out, sometimes he'll be talking to a girl and he'll tell her, you can't look at you can't look at my lips, or like stop looking at my lips like that. And then a lot of the time, like after he'll say something like that, then he'll be like, because if you do, then I'm gonna have to kiss you. Or something like this is obviously when things are already going well, right? There's already like a lot of good vibes going on, but I don't know if that's a presupposition or if that's something else. But I
Well,
thought that was really
this is a great NLP thing. One of the things in NLP is that the mind does not handle negation. So if you tell someone, don't think of a purple elephant, what are they going to
right.
think of? So it's one of those, it doesn't classify as a weasel phrase, that term a lot of you are familiar with, but it's a weaselly thing to do. And uh, I just will say, if you want to use it with good intentions and a good heart. Otherwise, it will bite you in the ass. All of these things, since
Is
David
that more
was,
like a forced mind read?
yes, well, David was bitten by a cat. So remember, all of these little tricks.
Yeah.
It's like a cat. If you have a water bottle, if the cat gets up on the counter and you spray it with the water bottle, the first couple times the cat's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" But as soon as the cat realizes that you're the sod that's spraying him with the water bottle, uh, he wants revenge and he loathes you. And if you think cats are bad, my God, an angry ex-girlfriend is far worse. Uh, you know, I'm the guy who can vouch for that. So anyway, I think what we're on. Alex, thank you so much for sharing that. Dwayne, on to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Uh, Actually, I already typed the thing I was going to bring up in because I thought the audio on my computer wasn't working. Just for personal amusement, to use it because.
Oh, I see what you said there. For personal music, can I get in line ahead of you because I'm here? Y- You know,
They'll accept it, which is
uh, there's a higher, and what Cialdini wrote in his book, there's a higher percentage that it will be accepted. And that right there is the most basic. It's basically nonsensical, but it can work. It will give you a much better opportunity to get ahead in line rather than you just said, can I cut
his
in front
first or
of you?
second book. Was that the more recent one? Yeah, it would have
Um,
to be.
I don't have my bookshelf next to me.
All right.
Uh, and really, his book, I found it so dry. His greatest parts in any of his books, I've learned more listening to Michael Breen talk about him than actually listening to the direct source. So I can't say what year it was. I know I have it on my bookshelf in my office. Um, if you're up for an interesting read, it's definitely worth reading. but there is so much information out there. And really, the because and how to use it therapeutically. I got it from Doug O'Brien, who worked with Tony and was one of his main guys. And Tony, now since he and Bandler have kissed and made up, Tony says he got it from Richard. So I'll leave it at that. Do you have any follow up or anything else?
I do on that one. If the other guy hasn't, if Dwayne has nothing else to say.
Dwayne,
I'm done.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I wanted to ask a question.
Dwayne,
if
thank
I
you so much.
could.
Oh,
Okay. So the other reason why because is so useful, and this will come back to what you were doing with Doug O'Brien as well, is because beliefs are generally it's a well-formed sentence, isn't it? The beliefs are generally expressed in terms of cause and effect, if then or whatever. Because I only beat
you're really going to open up this rabbit hole, but because in a belief, to simplify it more, you have an if then so, and you can use that to manipulate. If this means this, or if this is here, then that. So you come up with the conclusion, and then you can lock them in with it and say, "Don't you think?" And now you've
locked them right in.
Part of who they are. So thank you, Hamer. Tyrone,
Yes.
you had something to say, my friend?
Yeah, well, just thinking about because when I learned about it as a powerful word is that they said we're conditioned since we were children to respond to it because we would ask our parents, well, why can't we do this? And they said, because I said so. So we're conditioned all the way up until adults that when someone says because, that we'll have compliance after it. But I wanted to ask about presuppositions. When you use a presupposition, are you actually, and I guess it depends on where it is in the conversation, are you setting the frame for the interaction?
A quick answer is yes. Yes, I would say that. And one of the people I spend a lot of time with, who I won't mention, his belief is that the frame always comes first. I don't know if I'm staunch in that belief like he is, but if you control the frame, you're going to controlling the frame puts you in a position of authority, and it's going to set the direction of things. Like Tyrone, is now a good time to ask you a question?
Right.
I've got the frame. So
Exactly.
we've got it. So yes, framing is highly important. At this moment, I'm not going to delve deep into that because, Alex, what are some powerful ways to control the frame?
It's a cat in the picture.
The thing is, just maintain the frame. Always make sure it's on your terms. Mark Cunningham, one of his examples, I am rather fond of Mark, so I will quote him. He tells a story about how when he was single, he would date women, and he never went on a date when he didn't already have something planned afterwards. So that they'd go out to dinner, and his thing is like, "Hey, would you like to go to this club with me afterwards? We can dance a little bit." So, and if she said, "No, I don't feel like it," he'd go, "Okay, I'll drop you off along the way." So, the presupposition is, I don't need you to be happy. If you want to come along, I'd love to have you. But his frame is that I'm in control and you are not going to dictate what I do. I already have the plans, regardless.
Okay.
Does that give you an answer?
It does. And one more question. Like I'm not a hypnotist. I work like in sales and I've worked in call centers, but of course, these skills can apply to conversations. But when you're talking to someone and you use a presupposition, are you looking for signs that it's effective for the person that you're using it on?
Yes, you can usually see it right away. Um, David talks about this a lot, or at least he and I talk about it a lot. You can tell if someone's rejecting an idea you're trying to give them, the pursed lips, or, if they roll their eyes, it means they're not on board. But that does go a lot with framing. If they are in agreement with the frame, and this touches on rapport also, uh, you can calibrate their reaction, and that can give you a good indicator if they're on board.
Okay,
I know
that's
that was
what
a
I
little bit
figured.
vague, but we could really unpack this, but that would probably take another hour. But just to give you a general answer, uh, I'll stand with that for now.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Tyrone. I do see we have looked like someone came off mute. Graham.
Yeah, it's something to, while we're talking about the word because, there's a couple of extra words as well that you can throw in there, because it might get a bit repetitive if you're working with a client and all they hear is because all the time. You sound like you're in the Wizard of Oz. You think, am I over the rainbow or what? But some other words that you can throw in there, and they're all small words, but really, really powerful. Like things like and, as, so, and which means as well. So, for example, you could say, as you're lying there on the couch, just let yourself relax, which means that you can become more focused. Because in focus, also because in relaxation, you become more aware and you can go into your inner mind so that you can then do some work in it. So rather than just having some simple instruction like lie back, breathe deeply, relax, sleep, you can then start threading it together into more of a narrative, which they'll find more believable than just straight facts being pumped at them. It's the old thing which any salesman will always say, facts tell, but stories sell.
I'm glad you brought that up, because as we are pulling the strings and the levers and all that, we don't want Toto grabbing the curtain and exposing us.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that. And I'll just add, I got this from Robert Dilts. The word but, if you're using the argument, don't say, oh, but, use and or yet. Those are so much more powerful, and it will work with the aforementioned agreement frame. So thank you on that, Graham. That's a great little tidbit there. Anyone else have any questions?
Use of the word but has really impacted on me over the last year or so. It really does break the flow of a thought or a sentence too effectively, unless you want it to.
Absolutely, Dwayne. Yes.
Pretty much switched over to and.
And it keeps the flow going. And when you use the word but, it can make people bristle, and that's what we want to avoid, whether it is using it therapeutically in trance, or if we are trying to persuade someone. So,
But if you think back a couple of weeks to what Dave was talking about with confusion patterns, then but is a really powerful word, because the one that David stole from his mention, I stole from him, in a moment, but not right now, which is also a good one to link into what we talked about, I think it's 2 weeks ago, with the mixed message that you give somebody ready to get an instruction. It can be quite useful, especially if you're doing therapy like the branch I'm training in for cognitive behavioral hypnotherapy, where you have to do a bit of the cognitive behavioral side. Then it's a really good way if someone is going down a bit of a thought pattern or thought processes and you want to interrupt them, then you can throw the but in there to get them to have a bit of a thought switch or a pattern switch.
yes, and that really I would say that differs. That falls into a pattern interrupt. One of the best examples, if any of you have seen Richard Bandler's Class of a Master, I believe it's the third volume where he does rapid and instant inductions. I recommend watching that because none of the inductions are rapid or instant. Richard basically talked to the audience for about 10 minutes before, gave them a pre-talk, and by that time, everyone was already in trance. But there's a specific event where he looks at this guy and says, I'm going to have you sit in this chair, but not now. And he walks away from him, and that tranced him out. You can see that guy is completely gone. So, Richard touching him or whatever he is, saying sleep now, the guy was already in trance so far that he didn't need to do anything. But it made for great television. So thank you for sharing that. Tyrone,
Sometimes,
you come off mute. You came off mute.
yeah, but we've all been taught, of course, whatever you say before but is negated, and that's why it breaks the rapport.
Yes.
But sometimes I've used it in the reverse, like when I was a manager, and if this person was late, but they were a good worker, I would say, you have been late these past few days, but the quality of the work that you've been doing over the past 2 weeks is fantastic.
That's very intelligent. Thank you for sharing that because what you said is very true. Yes.
Yeah, just want to throw that out there.
No, that's actually a very good way to use the but, so to speak.
I have to laugh. One of my friends, I won't call them out, but their initials are Eileen Carey. Curb Your Enthusiasm. Larry David had an episode on the line, that being said. You can say anything to someone. It's like, hey, I really, respect what you've done. You've been great. That being said, I think you're dippy. And that's another cancellation type thing. I wouldn't recommend using that pattern. That is not something to use. Just an example.
I like that agreement frame, and then and then just bam.
And the thing is, if we are doing it therapeutically, Hamer, you'll agree, you never want to like backhand your client.
No, not if you want to get paid.
Yeah, and let's face it, that's why many of us are doing this. It's a source of income. We're not really there to, have a feelings workshop. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else with a burning desire? I cannot believe this. We're already at 51 minutes after the hour. This has just flown by. So, if anyone has anything that they'd like to say, please do so now.
I'd just like to go through one of David's examples when he's with his presuppositions in his book, Mind Control Language Patterns. He uses temporal presuppositions very, very effectively in there. So he says, before we do this hypnosis, trance induction, I want you to look back to yesterday, remembering what it would be like, knowing that tomorrow you would go into trance now, and consider what it is you're not thinking about. That will make it easy to go into trance and be hypnotized now. And you can put whatever you want after after that in there. But the presupposition right at the beginning is before we do the trance induction, that, there's a presupposition that you're going to go into trance, isn't there? And with all that time shifting and temporal editing in there, it's very hard not to go into trance before he's.
Well, leave it to you, Hamer, to pick the most loaded line, probably in that book. But yes, that's a great thing. the presupposition, of course, is there, but he is using, confusion patterns,
Obviously.
and he's also using time shifting. Just to give all of you a bonus, this part may get cut out on the replay, so listen. Uh, I found, back in my single days, that I would elicit their values, what they really wanted, and if they aligned with what I liked, I would take it and run with it. So let's just say connection. That's a very common one. Uh, that seemed to be what the majority of the women I met, what they were really looking for. So I just look at them and go, that's wonderful that you have that desire to find the connection. And back in time, we may not have always had that. But if you can just picture yourself 15, 20 years down the road, and you see us together having that deep communication and that real connection that you've always dreamed of, doesn't it give you a lot of confidence that as you look back to today, you can know it started right here, can't you? So that was a bastard thing that I used to do, and I was punished by getting the wife that I got, but it worked.
It's hugely powerful, that pattern.
Yes. So anyway, since we are closing in on the hour, I want to thank everyone. Thank you so much for your participation. In many ways, I think this is going to transform how we do our shows in the future. This has been just a wonderful group of people. And more importantly than that, if you take a moment and think some positive thoughts for our dear friend David, uh, he's gone through one surgery. There will be another surgery for ligament repair, but he's very positive and he'll be back in action in no time. And I truly, truly thank all of you for your participation and support. So,
and please do pass on our best wishes to David as well. We really appreciate it if you could do that, Joe.
I definitely will, and he's going to get a copy of this video, and I hope we did him proud. So thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend. Love you guys. Take care.
And thank you for standing in so well, Joe. It was brilliant tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, my friend. Take care.
Good night.